Joining me is the voice of the Saskatchewan Roughriders, Dave Thomas, who's going to fill us in with all the latest goings-on at Rider practice and with the team as well. I was sort of surprised, Dave, when you told me earlier that the Riders did practice outside today despite the smoke, and I guess it was below that certain number that allowed them to do so.
Yeah, the magical reading number. I'd try to get as intense or in-depth a number to explain it, and I just can't. So let's just say for the easiest and simplest form, yes, the team was back outside today practicing. It was a closed practice, so we didn't get to see what happened. But of course, the moment I had an opportunity to run out onto the field, that's exactly what I did to check in on Jir Thurman, who missed yesterday's practice. Aubrey Miller Jr. was taking his reps at the middle linebacker spot, but right away, I had to check in with Coach Mace and find out the status of Jir Thurman for potentially Friday's game against Edmonton.
Just he's got a big old toe, and he stubbed it the wrong way. But we just kind of took it easy yesterday. He's back out there. He's fine.
So I don't know, Don, have you ever gone in and read like some of the weirdest sports injuries? Like, you know, like a guy was having like noodles or something and he cut his lip, and a guy was cutting food for his kids, and he was a pitcher in baseball, sliced his fingers, couldn't start because he was out for 6 to 8 weeks kind of thing. So maybe a toe stub is what did it, but he was listed as a full participant today, and it sounds quite likely that Jir Thurman is going to be able to go on Friday, which is good news for the Riders. So that's one thing we do know.
Well, the one thing is, of course, since the advent of artificial turf, although it's getting better because the turf was so bad decades ago. But, you know, if you do jam the top of your toe, you know, sort of a really bad stub on the artificial turf, they call it turf toe, I guess.
Yeah.
Turf toe can be actually really bad, but I think if he had really bad turf toe, he wouldn't have been out today.
You're right. So that's a great sign. And speaking of turf, fun fact, I decided when we were in BC, I wanted to know exactly what that turf is like, because they're doing all kinds of renovations around that stadium to prepare for the World Cup next year, the World Cup of Soccer. So I went and stood on the turf, and there's a little bit more give than what I had anticipated. I truthfully was anticipating like asphalt covered by that old little green turf that you used to put on your deck and stuff. But there was actually a little more give. There wasn't a whole heck of a lot of give, but there was more give than I thought. So
was there more give than the turf here?
Probably equitable.
Oh, okay.
Probably very, very similar. And from what I understand, it can't be too spongy because of soccer, because the Whitecaps play there, for example. So that, again, did that cause the injury? I don't know. But again, good news is good news, and we'll take good news. So that's what we know. Unfortunately, what we don't know, depending on who you ask, is who's going to start at quarterback for the Edmonton Elks. Because again, today they held a practice. Cody Fajardo, Trey Ford, both splitting reps. They're not going to go ahead and name a starter until they absolutely have to tomorrow, which may go ahead and change the plans for the Riders. So I asked Coach Mace how closely he's been watching that quarterback situation.
You know, we got to keep eyes on it. Most teams will hold it tight to the vest, but realistically, we got to prepare for both quarterbacks, and that's certainly what we've been doing all week. So they both have their strengths, man, and have shown to be successful in this league during their time. So we're expecting the best from each one of them.
But you'll recall this is a little bit of a different situation, because there is obviously an opportunity for both quarterbacks to play, unlike when the Riders played BC a couple of weeks ago, right? Yeah. Nathan Rourke was a question mark, so you didn't know if you would see him. You would either, yes, see him or not. This time around, it truly is a situation where those two quarterbacks could play and could both play come Friday night. So
yeah.
In that consideration, I asked Coach if that means they have to prepare any differently.
Not really. You prepare when you sit and watch, and you prepare for the both of them. You kind of have a plan of attack for each one, whether you see them or not. But anticipating if you're potentially going to see one guy or the other, you got to be ready for both. So that's how we've attacked it this week, and whoever they choose, they feel gives them the best option. We got to have a plan for that.
So I throw this out, Rider Nation. Who do you want to see the Edmonton Elks start? Or maybe better yet, who do you think the Edmonton Elks are going to start at quarterback Friday night? If you go to SportsCage.com, our poll is up asking that very question. And right now, just over 70% anticipate. You want to guess?
I'd say Trey Ford.
Cody Fajardo.
Really?
Yeah. Again, vote sportscage.com or send us a text at 306-936-6262. Do you have a I don't want to say preference, but do you have, where are your spidey senses taking you as to who starts?
Well, there's two different Trey Fords, Dave. There's number one Trey Ford. He's struggling and seems to be almost regressing. Now, whether that's got something to do with he's not in sync with their offensive coordinator, I don't know. But he's not doing as well. But then there's Trey Ford number two. And that's the Trey Ford, Dave, that plays here at Mosaic Stadium.
Yeah.
Because he should, he played great the last two times he's played here. Not necessarily when he played Saskatchewan earlier in Edmonton, but when he's played here. Edmonton has won 3 of the last 4 games at Mosaic. It could be 4-0, but for that crazy Rouge a few years ago that I think they won 12-11 or whatever.
Yeah.
But the fact is, Trey Ford has had some of his best games as a CFLer right here at Mosaic. He likes it here for whatever reason. He's got some karma. And so I ask you this, Dave, is this the trappiest of trap games for Saskatchewan?
Absolutely. And defining a trap game where you maybe overlook your opponent a little bit because, again, Edmonton's in the rearview mirror right now.
Yeah.
And you're right. It could be, and everyone is saying the right words right now when it comes to the players and the coaches. No, this isn't a trap game. We focus on each and every opponent and going 1-0 every week, and that's fine to say. But I'm with you when it comes to Trey Ford because he has never lost to the Saskatchewan Roughriders in a game that he has started. Granted, it is a small sample size, but Trey Ford has had some kind of, I don't want to say good fortune or good luck because that diminishes what he's done. He's just played very, very well against the Saskatchewan Roughriders. So if he gets in there, and again, take nothing away from Cody Fajardo because he can run and make things happen with his legs as well. So that was the talk about last week and Nathan Rourke and his ability to do that. So Nathan Rourke, he ran the ball once for 13 yards in last week's victory for the Riders over the BC Lions. So I asked Coach Mace a little bit about the intricacy when it comes to stopping a running quarterback and whether that's assignment or whether that's a mindset or whether that's a technique. And he talked about how they approach coming up against a mobile quarterback.
It's a little bit of everything. It's players have to adjust how they do things. The scheme has to adjust sometimes depending on certain players. There's a bunch of different ways to skin it. But ultimately, speaking to Trey, whether it was playing against our defense or watching him against others, there's some really good plans, and sometimes his legs are faster than plans, right? So, you just kind of you want to look to see that you have a proper plan of attack, and when the ball's snapped, you just at that point you just hope we execute and he doesn't outrun it. Yeah.
And again, that's a big thing, right? Him outrunning and providing that depth. And so, again, I think that's an interesting matchup. And as I look at sportscage.com, again, just scroll down for the poll, it's now just over 70%. So people are starting to sway now towards maybe it will be Trey Ford. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, had Trey Ford not had so much success at Mosaic, I would have also guessed Cody Fajardo. But just because, I don't know, I can't figure out, and Trey Ford's not the only athlete that we've seen that for some reason does well against a particular team. We've seen it in other sports with other players, and I've often looked at that and never have I been able to figure it out. Like, why is this one team, why is this one player so successful against this one particular team? And the only thing you can really come up with is it's all between the ears. Yeah. He comes in, he's confident against Saskatchewan because he's done well.
And it's funny because it's like you're reading my mind, and I apologize because it's a very short story, right? Yeah. But in the athletes that do perform well against particular teams, and I was trying to think, okay, what's going to be the best example that we can draw from with the Saskatchewan Roughriders? And would the most recent best example not be Chris Getzlaff and the Calgary Stampeders? And the way that he would always show up at McMahon Stadium, Darian Durant would always find a way to find him streaking somewhere down the middle, running a post pattern that Calgary just couldn't figure out to cover. Is that the best one? I couldn't think of others.
That's a pretty good one. But, I mean, it's sort of like, Adams Jr., the quarterback in Calgary, always beats Winnipeg.
Yeah.
Like, how does that figure over the last number of years when Winnipeg's been such a powerhouse?
Yeah.
And he's done it now twice this year.
Yeah, for sure, right? I completely agree with you. And I don't know how that happens, but it just, whatever it is, something in the water, who knows? But it is.
Now, the Riders, I mean, it was really sad to see Carey go down with what looked like a horrific knee injury. I really liked how the coach responded to that injury. He clearly cares very much for that man. He came out onto the field and kissed him. He said later he's got a hell of a support system, underneath him that are supporting him because we love the man. And you could see the emotion in Mace's face when he saw how injured Carey was. And I couldn't help but think, Dave, how can you not want to play for a coach like that? He really cares for his players.
Special is the word when people, and I overhear conversations regarding not just Coach Mace, but the entire team, right? Because this team deeply cares about one another, and you could see that they were shaken up on the sideline because Kadeem Carey was having a heck of a ball game, right? He had done some really good things. That's what Coach Mace alluded to yesterday, and he had done some terrific things, not only in that game, but what about the way that he carried himself coming in? I want to be a part of this thing. I think it's something special, and this is Kadeem Carey and what he said coming in, right? I'll take a practice roster spot. That's great. If I can help out and you think that I can, put me in. And unfortunately, of course, the injury happens. But he is back in Regina. He had a chance to talk to his teammates. Again, they lent their support to him. So, again, we wish him all the best in what, again, looked like a terrible injury for sure. But maybe giving more props to Coach Mace, right? If you tuned into the SportsCage with Arash Madani earlier this week, and of course, if you didn't, you can go to the website, find the podcast, and hear about it. And Arash Madani called the game against the BC Lions the best game that Coach Mace had ever called as a defensive coordinator in the Canadian Football League.
Even beating the Grey Cup.
Even winning the Grey Cup. That's what Arash Madani's assessment was. And again, he's written it down. And so I asked Coach point blank, I said, so was that the best game you've ever called?
That's hard. I never want to take credit for that. I'm a big believer in players win games. No matter what we call as a defense, they got to execute it. I just thought it came down to execution for those guys. So, appreciate it, but that's the guys did that.
So there you go, right? Coach right there going, it wasn't me. And again, for all intents and purposes, it was a very, very good game plan.
Now, Dave, have you ever had a nightmare where you wake up screaming and sweaty?
Oh, I'm sure. I'm sure. Do I want to know where this is going?
Well, the other night I was watching the Ottawa Redblacks lose Hamilton in Ottawa, and I was wondering, what's going to happen to this organization? It's, the fans would show up in Ottawa if just the team would. And then I went to bed, and I had this awful dream, one of the worst I've ever had. And the dream was this, that they cleaned house completely in Ottawa and then hired, I shouldn't even say this, they hired Corey Mace as general manager and head coach.
Oh, wow.
For a big buck, at which point I woke up, screamed, and was in a sweat. Because I would hate to see this man ever leave.
Oh, you know what? You're right. You'd hate to see him leave. But again, I know that some people don't like Dave Thomas for this take, but I'd rather cheer someone on. And again, for whatever the aspiration is, I'm ready to cheer you on. But for now, I'm ready to cheer for you in green and white, if you know what I mean. So that's what I'm saying on that one. But the other bit of news that we do have out of Edmonton, if I've got just a moment, is that the Elks look like Jake Seresna is going to be coming back on the defensive line, which can only help.
This Friday.
This Friday, wow. They're hoping that he was limited, but they hope that the knee injury will be able to recover from, which will help their run game or their run defense, which they definitely can use a little bit of a bolster in. But on the back end, against a team that has given up so many passing yards and big big plays. The Elks have lost a couple of defensive backs as don't have practicing right now, Devondrick Bynum as well as Royce Metier. So neither of the two have been able to get on the practice field. They haven't officially ruled them out, but it doesn't sound promising. So the Edmonton Elks coming off a bye week, right? And again, this is one of the things that I really think has disrupted their season is their schedule. Like, this is their second bye week already this season. So they haven't really had a chance to get into rhythm and get going. Like, the Roughriders have been so fortunate, right? You get into those 4-week runs and then you take a week off.
Yeah.
And again, that's where we are right now. Get 4 weeks and then get another week off. So that's disrupted the Elks' plans, but unfortunately for them, they just couldn't get healthier over that break.
Yeah, the Riders have probably the best bye weeks in the league. If you look at everybody's bye weeks, they've got them spaced out pretty good. So I don't know who pulled some, maybe Craig Reynolds pulled some strings. I don't know, but they've got really a really good bye week. And what's happening too, what I've noticed is it seemed like Saskatchewan was getting so many injuries out of training camp in particular, so many injuries earlier, but other CFL teams are catching up with their injuries.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely the case. And, you would think that coming off a bye week, you would be okay, right? You'd get a little momentum, you'd be fresh, you'd do well. The Edmonton Elks are 0 for 7 in their last 7 bye weeks. They haven't won a game coming out of a bye week. Now, again, granted, you look at the record, you can understand that a little bit, but still, that's tough, right? This team needs to get some momentum and find it soon because the West Division is starting to run away a little bit. And a team that nobody's really talking about how much trouble they're in is the BC Lions. If you consider the fact that, okay, they've lost the season series now to both the Winnipeg Blue Bombers and the Saskatchewan Roughriders. So BC's got some work to do, and they've already used one of the bye weeks, so the Roughriders have a game in hand already on the BC Lions. So that game in hand comes in handy this week when they take on the Edmonton Elks, and we'll see what Friday night presents at Mosaic Stadium.
Well, the weatherman is clear and sunny.
Perfect.
As far as I'm concerned. And,
pay that man another $1.
Dave Thomas does not have to fill about 9 hours of airtime. We're hoping. Anyway, thanks for you to pop in.
Appreciate it.
We are
Thank you.
Always appreciate your insight.